Jerry and Esther have walkie-talkies that they use when they're moving around in the monster bus, when Jerry is out on the ground guiding her into a parking place or so on. And if he, every now and again, without meaning to, when it's in his pocket, he will dial to the wrong frequency. And he's out there just talking away. Esther can see him smiling and waving his arms and moving his mouth, but nothing's coming through on her radio. And so she holds the radio up, smiling, as if to say, I got it, but I don't got you. I can't hear a thing you're saying. And then he always laughs. He knows exactly what that means. They're not on the same frequency, and they cannot communicate. They cannot have the experience, the relationship that they are wanting if they're on different frequencies. And you can't have the relationship with the source that is you if you're posting yourself on the ornery frequency. If your frequency on your dial, you know how it says FM 101? If your frequency says ornery, or overwhelmed, or guilt-ridden, or worried, you're not receiving the signal from source. And then you begin to feel lost, and then you begin to feel unloved, and then you begin to feel unworthy and uncared for, and all of that ridiculous stuff that you feel because you put the thing in your pocket and got it on the wrong frequency without paying attention to what you're doing. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. Your inner being hears what's being asked for, not the complaint that's being offered in the moment. In other words, when your friend says, I'm having a hard life, and you feel that knot in your stomach because you believe your friend and you've focused upon the hard life that your friend is living, and you feel sad for your friend's hard life moment or hard life experience or expression, the reason you feel the knot in your stomach is not because your friend is having a hard life. We know it seems like that because the knot came when you found out about your friend's hard life. But the knot in your stomach, that vibrational emotional indicator, it's not because your friend is having a hard life. It's because the source within you is seeing your friend differently than you are. And what we mean by that is when your friend or you or anyone that you know is expressing what they don't want, complaining or worrying about it, there is a rocket of desire that is proportionate in depth and breadth and power to the other side of that wave. In other words, the complaint wave has an appreciation wave on the other side of it, just as all vibrations do. So when your friend complains, your friend bounces a wave into his vortex of creation, where your and their inner being receive the vibration of that wave. So your friend heard the request while you're hearing the complaint. You see what we're getting at? And when you hear the complaint, can you hear what we're saying? When you hear the complaint, the negative emotion that you feel is not because of the complaint. It's because you're listening to the wrong side of the wave. You didn't take the bounce. Your inner being did. So when your child says, Mom, they're mean to me at school, and you feel that heartbroken feeling of compassion for your child, so wanting to kill those kids, so hurting because your child is hurting, you didn't take the bounce. Your child's inner being took the bounce. Your inner being is in the vortex, receiving the bounce, the other side of the wave, but you're listening to the complaint. You're listening to the trauma. When you watch what's going on in Haiti and your heart aches, you didn't take the bounce. You're focused upon the drama and the trauma, and we are not for a moment suggesting that it isn't real, but the reason that you feel that awful feeling that you feel is not because of what happened. It's because you're not doing the productive thing about what happened. You're not doing the helpful thing about what happened. You're not riding the wave of desire. You're not going where source goes. You're not becoming part of the solution. You're still part of the problem. When you feel negative emotion, you're still part of the complaint. When you feel worried, you're still part of the problem. When you feel confused, you're still part of the problem. When you are angry, you are still part of the problem. But when you take the bounce, you're no longer part of the problem. You're part of the solution. And then you're doing the only thing that you really can do, because think about it. Think how many of those things that you worry about, and we would say all of them. You're not ready to go there with us yet, but think how many of those things that you worry about, that you have no control about them. You can't follow your child around and make sure that your child is treated the way you would prefer. And if you pretend that you can, you're weakening your child a little more every single day. You can't go to every corner of the world and soothe the problem that they are currently living. There are too many moving parts. There is too much that is uncontrollable. But you can become part of the solution. You can ride the wave. You can feel for the way the source within you feels about each and every subject that you turn your attention to. It is our absolute promise to you that every subject in every moment has two sides to the vibrational bounce. And you got to decide which side you're going to take. So when you decide that you're going to line up with who you really are, when you decide that you're going to become solution-oriented, when you remember that the problem is always outside the vortex and the solution is always inside the vortex, when you decide, and here's the key, that you want to feel good, when you are selfish enough to care about how you feel, then you will feel for the way the source within you feels about every subject that comes across your thinking process. Every subject evokes emotion from you, every single one. There is never an emotionless moment for you. Every waking moment, you are having vibrational discernment. And what we want this seminar to be for you, we want it to be your opportunity to acknowledge both sides of the wave and to discern in more moments in a day, thousands of them really, which side of the wave you're on, as you then make a deliberate decision to take the bounce that the source within you took, to try to find the point of view the source has already found. And when you do, when you begin making that effort, you will find yourself more often than not in the vortex. Esther will say to Jerry, after basking her way to sleep and basking her way awake, and then some meditation, and then a list of positive aspects, and then a rampage of appreciation. It's about a 40-minute process from beginning to end, the night before and the morning after. But she finds, and he does too, that being in the vortex is a very simple thing to do. It's just vibrational discernment and choice. It's just deciding which side of the wave of every question or every equation or every comment or every television show or every magazine article or every person that says every word to you. It's just a decision about whether you're going to take the bounce the source took or whether you're going to listen to the problem and the complaint and stay there outside the vortex in order to be there for someone who doesn't want to be where they are either. So as we are moving forward in the hours that we are together, we are going to show you how to feel your way into the vortex. Esther said during her meditation over the last few days, I want to feel ease and flow. I want to feel ease and flow. And so just by focusing on the word ease, she began to feel ease. She didn't need a crystal ball that showed her some future event. And she didn't need to look into her physical reality, which is full of ease and not ease. She could feel it through an emotional tuning. And then she was breathing out and in, really focusing on her breath. And as she was breathing out, the word well-being flowed through her mind. And as she was breathing in, she thought ease and flow. And then she began playing a soft game where she breathed out with well-being and in with a word that started with A, that felt like an in the vortex word, appreciation. And then out, well-being, and in, basking, balance. Then out, well-being, and then in, clarity and confidence. And then out, well-being, and then in, delicious, decisive. And then out, well-being, and then in, ease and energy. And then out, well-being, and then in, free and fun. And then out, well-being. She got all the way to X and had to choose excellence or Y was yes. There was a perfect word, a perfect in the vortex word for every letter of the alphabet. And as she sat there just making her way through the alphabet one time, she knew she was in the vortex. In other words, she just couldn't focus upon that many feelings. And there were many times, the reason that the game was productive for her is because there are many words that begin with whatever letter she was on that were a little off from that feeling of being in the vortex. It caused her to really focus and find the word. Imagine spending 15 minutes feeling for the words of what it feels like in the vortex. She tuned herself so completely with the vibrational frequency of her source, with the vibrational frequency of all that this life and every life has caused her to become, that she was glowing in the dark. We are not kidding you. In other words, when you tune in to the fullness of who you are, then and only then are you living life as you have intended to live it. And then, imagine coming out of meditation, after having tuned yourself to that frequency so efficiently, then can you imagine what law of attraction delivered to her that day? Can you even begin to imagine the people she rendezvoused with, the cleverness and clarity of their being? Do you know the dexterity of her body and the balance of her cells? In other words, when you take the time to tune yourself to who you really are, then, as you are living the day, then you're inside the vortex. And then when your friend complains, you're in there with your friend's inner being. You're in there with the source within you. And the words that flow forth from you are helpful words. Words that confirm who they really are, not words that sympathize or feel compassion for where they are. You want to tune to who you are, and nothing else will do for you. So this is what we've come round to through all of these conversations that we've had with so many people for so many years. It feels terrible to sift through contrast and not know your power. It feels delightful to sift through contrast when you do know it, because then you start looking at it like a buffet. Watch the people who get behind the fast-moving machines. Don't they just love to explore their ability to control those vehicles at higher and higher and higher rates of speed? Now, many people would say it'd be a whole lot smarter if you just slow way down. And they would say, yeah, but it's way more fun. And others would say, oh, but it's so risky. And they would say, not for me. It's not risky for me. It's not risky for someone who knows what they're doing. It's not risky for someone who's played this game before. It's not risky for someone who's moved up little by little and gained control of what they're doing. You see what we're getting at? Yeah. So how do you decide what's better, to drive fast or to drive slow? And we say, you kind of got to mind your own business and just do what you feel like doing today. And if you are afraid to drive fast, don't drive fast. And if you're bored when you drive slow, speed it up. Good?
Good, and I just thank you so much for all of that. And I want to say thank you so much for your constant communication. You are loved, all is well. That's a mantra I use anytime I have any upset.
That's the grid you can always count on. That's the grid. That's the grid that's stable and emanating to you in a way that there is no reason, no excuse in the world for you to not be receptive of that. That's the grid that is always being offered to you. And if you don't know it, you're not trying. And we mean that in the nicest way. Try a little. Just try a little, and you'll feel it.